So this mini lecture is going to talk about style beats, and specifically this is going to talk about the first one that we're going to talk about in this class, which is a swing beat. But before we get there, I want to talk about this notion of what a style beat is. So a lot of what we're talking about when we say style beat is a particular pattern or style of playing that identifies is specifically how the rhythm section needs to play in order to evoke a certain style. So there are things that the bass guitar is going to do, there are things that the drummer is going to do, things that the chord instrument is going to need to do that's going to evoke these styles. Now, there's nothing that says that they have to do these things, but these are the kinds of patterns that have sort of become convention for these different musical styles. Now, the main ones that we're going to talk about, the first one is actually called a honky-tonk or a country style. And then there is the swing style. And then there is the rock beat. And then we even head all the way up to disco. And so these have these names, which connects to the style of music that we're looking at. Then they also have numbers associated with them. So there's the 2-beat, the swing is the 4-beat, the rock is the 8-beat, and then the disco is the 16-beat. So what we're talking about when we use these numbers, we're basically talking about how many times does a particularly prominent instrument play in a measure. So honky-tonks, 2, 4, 8, 16. And as we talk about each one in particular, we will go through what it is that's giving it that notion of the 4-beat. So the first thing that we're going to talk about for this module is the swing beat, or the 4-beat. It's a 4-beat in particular because all 4 beats of your standard 4/4 measure are each getting almost equal emphasis. And this is primarily happening, I'm going to change colors here, because we are having what is called a walking bass line. So in a walking bass line or a walking bass, what you're going to hear is you're going to hear the bass playing almost a quarter note on every single beat. And they do often what's called, it's going to feel like it's walking. And in all essence, they can literally just walk their fingers up the fretboard. I'm going to play it on the piano because that makes the most sense. But one that you'll hear often is really, this is very simple, but it goes. So that's the idea, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. That, by the way, what I did there is I took and this isn't how every single song goes, but I took what was a 1, 4, 5, 7 pattern. I ended up doing 2 bars of 5, 7 because it just fit a little bit better since we need an 8 bar. There's some other things that I could have done, but anyway. And then really what I did is that I just played, if you think about the chord tones of that, I just played 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5, and then I did a funky little 5, 6, 7, 8 kind of thing for the last one, just to sort of lead us back to C. But this, if you're trying to think about how to make up a really basic walking bass line and it's something you want, this is a great pattern to go for. Listen to it one more time. So that's kind of the idea of what we're doing. Another one that you can do is you can just do root fifth, So these are two really basic examples of how you can do a straightforward walking bass line. As you learn more about walking bass, if this is something that interests you, you get into a little bit more nuance about having some leading tones that are going to nudge into the different chord changes. But this gets you 90% of the way there. So this is item number 1 of a swing beat, and this in particular is why it's called a 4-beat, because you end up with 4 notes, 4 of these notes in every single measure. The other thing that really drives the swing beat is what we call the swung rhythm. And this is something that is never, well, some music will notate it, but 99% of the time it's not notated in the music, it's just understood. And really what this means is that when you have eighth notes in a piece like this, instead of playing them as straight eighth notes, 1 and 2 and, you're going to turn them kind of into triplets. You're going to make them unequal and get this kind of a pattern. And this is something that will show up in the melody, it will show up in whatever harmony you might have, but really this is something that is driven by your drum set, by your percussion. They'll usually in one of their in their ride cymbal or something along those lines do something that sounds like, and that gives you that swung rhythm. So these are the 2 big things that you want to listen for when you're looking for something that's going to sound, that's going to be in a swung beat style. There are some videos that walk you through this in a lot more detail that talk about, they kind of take it from the perspective of if you were going to have to create a rhythm section or teach instrumentalists how to play in a swing rhythm section, but it gives you the concepts that you need to understand it. And then go find yourself some video, some recordings of songs that have this swing beat and see how much you can identify.